accomplishments, he's three division undisputed, moved up 2 divisions to beat Canelo. So he's probably he's accomplished more than Mayweather for sure.
This may be the last time we see our legend, the greatest fighter of this generation. I told y'all back then that Bud would beat Floyd Mayweather. Y'all didn't believe me.
Do it. But what I'm saying is, if you have a victory over this man now, just doesn't... What for what? Terence Crawford, we know what you are.
One boxing experts explain why Terence Crawford is now seen as the GOAT. After his historic win over Canelo Alvarez, many believe his ability to move up through weight classes and still dominate shows a rare greatness that sets him apart from past champions. Robert Garcia supported this view, saying Crawford has achieved more in this regard than Floyd Mayweather. He pointed out that Crawford convincingly won 9 to 10 rounds and showed a hunger that Canelo simply couldn't match. Garcia stressed that Mayweather never attempted such a challenge, making Crawford's triumph even more remarkable in boxing history.
Has already accomplished too much, has already done too much, and he wasn't, I don't see that hunger in him anymore. I don't see those changes anymore. He fights flat-footed, throws one punch at a time. He's not fast anymore, and that's why I picked Crawford by decision.
Are you surprised how easy it was?
Look, not that I'm surprised, because what I just told you, I think Crawford is very talented, and Crawford is hungry to become a legend. He wanted to become that three division undisputed. He wanted to go up, he wanted to make history by going up 2 divisions to beat Canelo, one of the greatest of all time. So he was hungry for it. I think Canelo has already done so much, has made so much money that he's not hungry anymore.
You think possibly that Crawford is up there with Pacquiao or Mayweather?
I think in accomplishments, he's three division undisputed, moved up 2 divisions to beat Canelo. So he's probably he's accomplished more than Mayweather for sure. Mayweather never became undisputed, but that doesn't mean he's better than Mayweather. I think in a fight at welterweight, Mayweather in his prime would beat Crawford, and Pacquiao in his prime would probably beat Crawford. But Crawford has accomplished more.
Do you think Crawford should retire after this or fight someone else?
Look, I think a rematch would be fucking good for Crawford to just beat him again and do the same thing if Canelo doesn't have any changes. If he doesn't, he needs to do a lot of changes. Canelo needs to do a lot of changes.
Greg Hackett strongly rejected the idea that Crawford needs another big fight to prove his greatness. After Turki Alshik suggested a matchup with David Benavidez, Hackett insisted Crawford has already secured his place in history by moving up in weight and beating Canelo in such dominant fashion. For Hackett, this was not just another win, it was a career-defining achievement that stamped Crawford's name among the all-time greats. He emphasized that Crawford's leap from welterweight to super middleweight to conquer one of the most respected champions of this era was unprecedented. In Hackett's eyes, this one fight alone secures Crawford's legacy. He doesn't need Benavidez or anyone else to validate what he has already accomplished. Sometimes, Hackett said, one fight tells the whole story of a career, and Crawford's win over Canelo is exactly that.
The Evel Knievel effect, like, all right, you jumped over 3 buses. Let's see if you can do 10 buses. You know what I'm saying? He trying to test his limits, and they think the money is going to keep getting him out there. That fight is pointless. The fight is pointless because nobody ever talked about that fight until now. And then I don't feel like Bud needs a Benavidez. And then that would mean Benavidez would have to go into a different body and bring himself back down to 68 when he's already getting settled in at 175. And, you know, I believe Benavidez has some tough tasks in front of him that he want to conquer before even talking like that. I don't even think he want to talk like that because there's really no point. He wanted the Canelo fight because Canelo was the man at 68. He was at 68. I don't think he cared about fighting Bud, and I don't think Bud cared about fighting Benavidez. That's just Turkey trying to pull rank. Turkey trying to show he got a golden arm. You know what I mean?
I understand that Turkey likes to make these big grand events, but there's a boxing aspect to this shit too. Like, some stuff gotta make boxing sense. Bringing the dude down that's been comfortable at 75, bringing him back down to 68, and then having him fight a dude that just jumped 3 weight classes in 2 fights that started his career off at 35.
Right.
Like, no, bro. No.
Yeah, I don't want to see that fight. There's no point. There's no point. Like I said, Bud need to just go get a line of suits. You know what I'm saying? Get ready to just start talking about this shit.
What kind of suit?
I don't know. I don't know what's the best suits right now.
Showbiz. The adult called Crawford's victory one of the most remarkable single fight achievements in modern boxing. He marveled at how Crawford climbed from welterweight to middleweight and finally to 168 pounds, executing his plan perfectly to defeat Canelo. According to Showbiz, this was not luck, it was a carefully planned rise where every step led to this ultimate challenge. He said the fight looked as if it had been destined. Crawford was sharp, prepared, and unstoppable. Showbiz declared that Crawford has nothing left to prove because this was the fight of fights. In his view, the boxing world has seen enough to close the chapter on Crawford's greatness. His dominance against Canelo showed every quality that makes a fighter legendary, and nobody else needs to challenge him to prove it further.
Thoroughly just knew there was no way Terence Bud Crawford beat Saul Canelo Alvarez at 168. Canelo Alvarez was the super middleweight undisputed champion and younger. Terence Crawford was 26 at lightweight. Canelo Alvarez at 26, what was he, a middleweight? Terence Bud Crawford just grew to 154 at 36 years old. Canelo hasn't been able to make 154 since he was a baby. Terence Bud Crawford jumped up from welterweight to super middleweight to beat one of the greatest fighters of all time, to become 3-time undisputed in 3 different weight classes. Enough said.
Enough said.
It shed light on his victory against Errol the Truth Spence. That is for damn sure. Just the way he dominated him. Errol Spence was in there like, what the? If Canelo is saying there wasn't shit I can do in there, Errol Spence had to have been in there like, holy shit. It brings light to his resume. Everybody ducked him. We kind of knew that Bob Arum had Manny Pacquiao avoid Terence Crawford. I can't say Manny Pacquiao avoided Terence Crawford, but Bob Arum definitely did. PBC, welterweights in the PBC all avoided him. I am here to give credit to Terence Crawford for being one of the most ducked fighters in history. So you cannot any longer blame his resume, his greatness, and look at his resume when we all know, genuinely, we have to be genuine, that he is one of the most ducked fighters of all time, like Bob Foster, like Black Murderers Row, Charlie Burley and Eddie Booker and all those guys. Listen, Terence Crawford by himself is Black Murderers Row of this era. Now, do I need Terence Bud Crawford to continue fighting? Hell no. For what? If you beat Terence Crawford now, what do you want him to do? Strip down to 160, lose that muscle mass he has, and be a little bit... We saw that with Roy Jones Jr., but he can do it. He's the everything man. He can do it. But what I'm saying is, if you have a victory over this man now, just doesn't... What for what?
Luke Thomas described Crawford as a boxing genius. He explained how Canelo Alvarez, a fighter often compared to legends, and known for beating top challengers, was made to look ordinary under Crawford's control. Thomas compared it to Crawford's earlier performance against Ricky Burns, but on a far bigger stage. Canelo is no simple opponent. He is one of the most skilled and accomplished champions of this era. Yet Crawford dismantled him with precision. Thomas emphasized that the genius wasn't just in winning, but in how Crawford predicted every move, used perfect timing, and neutralized all of Canelo's strengths. He called it a masterclass that shocked analysts because of how effortless it looked. The fact that Crawford made a fighter of Canelo's caliber look ordinary, Thomas said, cements him as one of the greatest tactical minds boxing has ever seen.
Effect because it wasn't working. Or they were like, threatened in some kind of way. It was fucking Canelo. Canelo had some good punches in this fight. I thought early on that left hook to the body, which he got away from in the middle parts of the fight, got back to it a little bit at the end. But again, he was catching and shooting was a big part of why that went away. Bud was like, bop, catching him for it. Several times he hit him with that. Canelo had a decent jab at times. That right hand was able to catch Bud cleanly a couple of times, but not really. Bud's face looked normal, fine. You would never have known he went 12 rounds. Remarkable beyond words, man. Remarkable. That is so, I fucking hope and pray that everyone who is I don't know what the casuals are going to say. I really don't. But for the real fight fans, the ones who are probably watching the stream, I hope you appreciate what you just took a look at. Daring to be great. Daring to do what people just basically, I mean, people have unified, or I should say, I've gone undisputed in 3 weight classes before, but it's exceedingly rare, right? And to go up such a fucking jump. And let's go over one more thing if we can here for just a moment. One of the things that like Bud has been trying to argue is that the boxing establishment has overlooked him. He was never their darling. He was never the guy that they picked. He was never the one that they chose ahead of time. And we're like, we're going to anoint you as our figure. He was never that guy, that was not him. And beating Spence got him a pretty far away in terms of like changing attitudes, but Canelo was the big one because Canelo was that guy. Now Canelo, of course, earned everything he's gotten too. That's not the point. But like what I'm trying to say is Canelo was the promotional darling. Hello, the face of boxing. You know what I mean? And not just the face of boxing in this country, the face of boxing in another country. Dude, this motherfucker was the face of boxing worldwide, but in particular in North America, right? And something of a promotional darling, and always the A side, and this, that, and the other. And that was not Crawford's journey, man. That was not Crawford's, he was fighting the Ricky Burns of the world. That was not his trajectory.